So it is finally slime time! Reincarnated as a Slime, episode 2 is here. Honestly, this series, it reminds me a lot of Overlord in terms of just feeling like 5 minutes long. That sucks. Especially when you're enjoying something. Before I begin, I'm just gonna say that, does anyone else just see, like, the major contrast between this series and what we saw from Goblin Slayer this past weekend? Like, okay, if we compare the pilot episode of, Goblin Slayer and what we saw from Goblins and what they did, and regardless of the controversy and people getting all upset and all that, I'm not getting into that. The point is when you look at the contrast of the first episode of Goblin Slayer, and when you look at this episode of Slime, and when you see how the goblins interacted with him, you're like, it's just two different viewpoints on how goblins are in fantasy, and I really like that. It's very interesting that these two series decided to come out pretty much in the same season and very close to each other when they air. Like, one comes out on Saturday, one comes out on Monday, and they air very closely together, and, most likely Goblin Slayer's fresh in your mind, and then when you finally see Slime and you see something like this, you're like, whoa. I do wonder how relevant the goblins are going to be. That's my biggest question I have about, episode 2 of Slime. They do state that they'll become followers, and they will do anything he says. That's what they say to the main male character. And I'm like, you know what, that's pretty cool. That's really cool that something like that's happening. They're really nice people from what it seems. But I'm like, holy crap, I just can't help but remember what, the Goblin Slayer said. The only good goblin is a goblin that learns to stay in its freaking hole. And I'm like, oh my god, like, it just, the contrast, it's ridiculous. But okay, I'll drop it there because I know many might not want to hear about Goblin Slayer. So, talking about episode 2 of Reincarnated as a Slime, it's, once again, way above average animation and art, because the color palette, as I said in my first impressions, is outright beautiful. It's honestly just breathtaking with how each individual scene is really done. When you see the backgrounds to the character designs, even the goblin designs, I really like that. And I haven't even really got into the voice acting, which I really love the dragon's voice actor. I just love how, you have the tsundere dragon and all that. And it's like, don't leave me or we're friends, or getting really happy because, Veldora was actually called, by Tempest and all that. I really like the scenes of the voice acting in it. It's something I didn't really get to compliment a lot in my first impressions. But anyways, the color palette and the beautiful animation art, it remains the same as it was in the first episode. So this definitely does let us know, at least as anime onlys or whatever, or anyone that's watching this series, that this series is probably going to be a little bit consistent with its production values. It seems like the team that is working on it, like I said, seems to most likely be very passionate about the project, because even though there is things that happen, scheduling issues, you can run behind, on certain things that need to be done on an episode when they're making it, it does seem like everything, at the very least from what I can see, is on track with the production of Reincarnated as a Slime, and there seems to really be no issues, and it seems like they're going the extra mile to really adapt this wonderful series, which that's what I want to get into. So, a lot of, major, light novel readers and web novel readers and all that, they came to me and basically told me how the adaptation was for Reincarnated as a Slime. That's what I was told. And they told me that overall, the adaptation is pretty spot on. Like, in terms of just following the light novel or the web novel, it's doing a good job. It's really not disappointing whatsoever, and many are actually very pleased with, the little tidbits here and there that they've added, and they also really enjoy, how the character expresses himself, and you get to see certain little things that you weren't really able to understand clearly in the light novel or the web novel. So I do appreciate this information I was given from, the readers, the original source readers of Reincarnated as a Slime, because that does let me know that this series does have a lot of potential to be a very good series for fall of anime 2018. Also, I forgot to mention, but apparently this series is going to be like 20-something episodes, so if that really is the case, that's really good news, because honestly, I really hate series like this that have like only 12 episodes. I don't want to knock any studio or any anime, I'm not pointing anything out, but I can't stand it when like a season is so short, because with series like this that come from a light novel or a web novel, it needs to be a little bit longer than normal. I know it's not always the studio that decides that. They're not the ones to really decide that, but the point is I feel like you can benefit greatly from, let's say, a 22 to 25 episode series, especially when it focuses on a setting like this. Like something like Overlord or this, it would really benefit because there's so much time to really start on the prologue and introduce the characters, get into the nitty-gritty for you can really appreciate why people fell in love with this series in the first place. And I think that's why many have had a really good reception to Reincarnated as a Slime, because the first episode was amazing, by the way. Still one of my favorite first episodes of this anime season from what I personally have seen. And then, this episode also carried that exact same quality. So I'm like, you know what? I really like what they've done so far with this series, and just shows that they care. They do care about it. And I think original readers are going to be extremely happy. Okay, to get into the details of this episode, for the most part, the first section or first half of the episode was mainly getting Veldora out of the cave. Now, Veldora didn't actually pop back up. Never really got out of, our MC, and he never spit him back out or anything. But overall, the, unlimited, imprisonment, it was removed on the dragon. Which I do think is pretty freaking cool, how his abilities work. And it's honestly pretty OP. Now, I've seen a lot of Isekai series, and, having an OP main character is very common. I mean, honestly, if I really wanted to, I could probably pull up a big list of just OP characters in light novels or just Isekai series. It's crazy. And so, this is a common theme, a common trope or cliche that you see constantly in an Isekai series. Now, this does not mean that I hate this episode or this series is going to be garbage. I'm not saying that. Don't think I'm saying that. I'm just saying that it is a common trope, so it is to be expected. It's very rare you have a character, let's say, like Subaru from ReZero, that honestly really isn't that strong at all, and really, all the man really does is just cry. So, I mean, that's a rarity in of itself. But regardless, it comes down to execution, how things are done. Because even if you have a weak MC, doesn't mean that's going to turn out good. It just really comes down to the writer. And from what I've seen so far from the writing, it does have this unique setting and take to the main character. Now, the thing I like about it, as I've already said in my first impressions, is that we have an MC that's pretty much a slime. And this dude has this very unique body, this very unique abilities, the way he's able to analyze things, absorb things, and then use them. And what we saw throughout this episode, honestly, kind of sparked my inner gamer. Like, if I honestly was really back into MMOs at the moment, like really excessively playing them like I used to do in the past, honestly, I might have hopped on an MMO after watching this second episode. Because when I saw the slime just going around adventuring, collecting ore, or, going around, learning new moves and, absorbing creatures to get stronger or whatever, it reminds me of some RPGs or MMOs I played in the past, and I'm like, yo, this is just lighting my gamer spirit and all that. I couldn't imagine if that was actually in real life and you're doing something like that. That'd be really freaking cool, very entertaining, and that's why I think I really am falling in love with this series, is because how much I love fantasy settings, isekais, and I really do like games. It's hitting all the right notes to really just keep me entertained from the start to finish of the episode, and that's why I feel like the episode feels so short, because of how much I'm actually enjoying it. But, yeah, so the dragon got out. Veldora did get out of the cave, and the MC was pretty much navigating through the cave to find an exit, and while doing so, was taking down bunches of creatures that I'm assuming is incredibly powerful. I'm going to bet that those creatures are not weak whatsoever to be in a cave with, like, a legendary god dragon or something. I just doubt those creatures are weak by any means. But, anyways, our MC was able to just clear them up like it was nothing, and every time he, absorbed them, he would gain their abilities, which reminds me a lot of Kirby. I mean, we already saw this element in the first episode, but seeing how he was able to absorb the bodies of the dead monsters and stuff, and then he got their abilities and also could, change shape and turn into them, I'm like, that's pretty cool. That's interesting that he's able to do something like that, which does bring up another question, though. I did see the opening song, obviously, because, that's kind of something I always like to do. I love to see the new opening or new openings for a season, and especially for a series I'm watching, I want to hear it, I want to watch it. Now, I know some openings can have spoilers, and I'm assuming the opening that did come out for this series does have a lot of spoilers. But one thing I did get from the opening that was very obvious was that our main male character, the slime, he's able to turn into a humanoid shape. Now, it's very obvious that this is potentially possible, because, I mean, after absorbing the snake and stuff, he was able to turn into it and use its abilities, so he can morph and change shape. But if we go by the logic of what we've seen already in the series for him, like, let's say absorbing things to turn into it, does that mean the form he turns into in the opening song, that humanoid form, did he absorb a person to do that? That's what I'm very curious about. Or did he just gain an ability to turn into a person? I really don't know, but there's a lot of questions I have about that because he was shifting from slime to humanoid form back and forth, and I'm assuming that's like his main appearance when he's not being viewed as, a slime ball or something. Now, speaking of being viewed, apparently he was radiating a lot of aura, which I thought was pretty hilarious because the man was unaware of it, and then he's like, oh man, it's leaking out, and he just, sucked it back in and hit it. I'm just like, this is my type of series. I like this already. But yeah, Reincarnated as a Slime, episode 2, it's pretty simplistic if you just look at it from like an outsider's perspective. Don't really try to dive into it. It's simple. It's just pretty much the MC leaving the cave, getting the dragon out, gaining abilities, meeting up with goblins, and then these goblins like, help us and all that. There's direwolves attacking us. That's pretty much the episode, unless you really get into certain messages or themes that are going on. Like, there is some politics that was building up, which I do look forward to that. I do hope there's more of that, and that's not like the last time we actually see politics behind the scenes, because that reminds me a lot of Overlord or other series that has like fantasy settings and people trying to handle like an OP MC that they don't really know much about. But that's about it. I'm going to leave it at that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below. And with that, Chibi out.